I had no idea what would happen on that Thursday night. It was meant to be every other Thursday night. It would have made me laugh if you told me that my husband's best friend would be the reason everything in our home would change. But here I am still trying to figure out how one visit and an unexpected moment changed everything. I was stirring the pasta on the stove in the kitchen when I heard the front door open and saw my husband. Chris had texted me earlier saying he was running late from work, but his best friend Alex might stop by to hang out until he got home. It wasn't unusual. Alex was like a part of the family. He had been Chris's closest friend since they were kids, practically grew up together, and was the best man at our wedding. He had keys to our place, came by all the time, and was always respectful. At least that's what I thought. "Hey, Nicole," Alex called from the living room. His voice carried its usual upbeat tone, but there was something different in the way he said my name. I peeked around the corner and gave him a smile. "Hey, Alex, Chris isn't back yet." He walked in, dropping his jacket on the coat rack. "Yeah," he told me, "said I could hang out here for a bit, hope that's okay." "Of course," I said, wiping my hands on a towel. Want something to drink? Sure you got that ginger ale?" "I like you know it," I said. Grabbing a can from the fridge and handing it over, he sat down at the kitchen island while I finished up dinner for the first few minutes. It was normal we talked about sports, the usual gossip about people we all knew, but then the conversation took a strange turn. He got quieter, more thoughtful. It wasn't like Alex to be this still. He was usually cracking jokes or teasing me like an older brother would. "You know," he said slowly, tapping his fingers against the can, "I always thought Chris hit the jackpot with you." I raised an eyebrow, slightly amused, but caught off guard. "Thanks, I think I'm serious," he said. Meeting my eyes, "You're amazing, smart, beautiful, patient, supportive." I don't think he realizes how lucky he is. Sometimes I let out an awkward chuckle and turned back to the stove. "That's sweet, but Chris is a great husband. He's just busy lately." "Yeah, busy," Alex replied, but there was something in his voice that I couldn't ignore. I set the table with just the two of us and told him the pasta was ready. I kept checking my phone to see if Chris had texted again, but there was no message. Alex was acting thoughtful and quieter than usual, which made me think he was getting ready for something. "You ever think about how life could have turned out differently?" "Like, what do you mean?" he asked all of a sudden. I said, "I mean, if Chris hadn't met you first, my heart skipped a beat." "Alex, I know," he said quickly, raising his hands. "I'm not trying to be weird, I've always admired you, and tonight sitting here, just the two of us, I guess I'm realizing how much I've kept to myself." I stared at him, stunned. This was the man who had stood next to Chris at our wedding, the man who had given a heartfelt toast about how happy he was for us, how perfect we were together. I never imagined he'd be sitting at our kitchen table saying something like this. "I care about you, Nicole," he said softly. "I always have." "Alex, I think you should leave." I stood up and my plate barely touched the table. He didn't fight. He just nodded slowly, like he knew he'd crossed a line. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I just had to say it, but I'll go." And with that, he was gone. There was no anger or drama, just silence. I locked the door behind him and leaned against it, my heart racing. I didn't know what to do or if to tell Chris. I didn't want to start a fight between them, especially since I wasn't sure what Alex's real intentions were. Maybe he was just caught up in the moment, or after an hour, Chris finally got home. He was so tired that he kissed me on the cheek and thanked me for making dinner for him. That night, I didn't say anything about Alex, but the next day, things began to change. Alex stopped coming around for game nights, odd visits, and texts or calls. Chris saw but didn't seem too worried. He thought Alex was working or just needed some space. I wanted to leave it that way to act like nothing happened, but guilt was making me feel bad. After 3 weeks, I finally told Chris everything. We were sitting on the couch and I just couldn't take it any longer. I told him what Alex had said and how it made me feel. I also told him that I thought it would be better to talk about it now rather than letting it get worse. Later, Chris didn't say anything for a long time. He just stared at the TV with a blank look on his face. When he did speak, his voice was quiet. "I always thought he had a thing for you. I just didn't want to believe it. Your breath caught you. He was always a little too eager to be around you," Chris said. "I thought maybe I was overthinking it, but I guess not." I was sorry for telling Chris the truth, even though I hadn't done anything wrong. He didn't blame me. Instead, he hugged me and thanked me for being honest. But things weren't the same after that. Chris reached out to Alex once, but Alex didn't respond. He tried again a week later, nothing it hurt. Chris more than he let on. They'd been best friends for nearly 20 years. 2 decades. But that friendship, like so many things in life, came to an unexpected end in the most quiet and strange way. Months went by, life moved on, but the tension never fully left our home. Not between me and Chris, we were solid if anything. The experience brought us closer, we talked more, made time for each other, and made sure nothing was left unsaid. It was almost like that night forced us to remember how important our foundation was. But Alex's absence was a silent reminder of how quickly things could change. Then, one Saturday afternoon, there was a knock at our door. I opened it to find Alex standing there, looking like he hadn't slept in days. "I'm not here to cause problems," he said before I could say a word. "I just need to talk to Chris." "Please?" Chris stepped into the hallway, tense but calm. He didn't invite him in. They spoke outside for nearly 20 minutes. I stayed inside, pacing, listening to muffled words. I couldn't make out when Chris came back in. He looked lighter, sad, but lighter. He apologized. He said simply told me he's been dealing with a lot, that he was confused, that he needed time to sort himself out, and I told him we're fine, but things won't go back to the way they were. It wasn't forgiveness, exactly, but it was closure. We never saw Alex again after that. Maybe someday we will, maybe we won't, but one thing's for sure. What happened in our home that night changed everything. It ended a friendship, it tested a marriage, and it reminded us that sometimes even the people you trust the most can surprise you in ways you never expected. But through it all, Chris and I came out stronger, and for that I'm grateful.